When you were 10, a single summer lasted forever. Last year disappeared before you noticed it was here. The difference is not your schedule. It is not your age. It is a specific mental habit. The Buddha diagnosed 2,500 years ago. A habit of chasing a version of yourself that does not exist yet. And that chase is the reason time keeps shrinking. He explained this to a man who had killed 999 people. The man was sprinting at full speed through a forest, and he could not catch someone who was only walking. The Buddha turned around and said 7 words that stopped him. And those 7 words will change how you think about every deadline, every birthday, every year you feel you have wasted. In 1877, a French philosopher named Paul Janet noticed something no one had bothered to measure. A year at age 10 feels long because it is 1/10 of everything you have ever lived. A year at age 50 feels short because it is 1/50th. The math is clean. Time is not speeding up. Your reference frame is expanding. Every new year is a smaller fraction of the total, and your brain processes it that way, automatically, without asking your permission. William James picked this up 13 years later in his Principles of Psychology and added a second layer. It is not just the ratio. It is the content. When you were 7, a single afternoon at the beach contained more new information than some adults process in a week. The cold water, the sand in places sand should not be. The first time a wave knocked you down and you came up laughing, your brain recorded all of it, every detail. And because it recorded so much, the memory feels long when you look back. Now think about last Tuesday. What did you do? If you are like most people, you cannot answer that question without checking your phone. Last Tuesday collapsed the moment it ended because your brain found nothing new enough to record. The day happened, but it left no file. You are running on a treadmill, your legs are moving, the dashboard says you are covering distance. But when you step off, distance. But when you step off and look around, you are in the same room you started in. That is what routine does to time. Isplus. It deletes the scenery. Janet measured the speed. James described the blur. But neither asked the question the Buddha asked 2,500 years before either of them was born. Why are you running in the first place? There is a story in the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta 86, about a man named Angulimala. The name means finger necklace. He wore one. It was not a metaphor. He had killed 999 people, and from each he had taken a finger and strung it around his neck. The texts say farmers would not walk the road near Savatthi. Shepherds abandoned their flocks. Entire villages emptied when they heard he was close. The Buddha was staying nearby. His monks warned him. Farmers on the road warned him. The texts say groups of 10, 20, 30, and 40 men had gone down that road and not come back. The Buddha said nothing. He picked up his bowl and walked. Angulimala saw him from a distance. A single monk, alone. Walking calmly through the forest, he had claimed. Angulimala began to run. He was young, strong, a trained killer who had overpowered armed men. The Buddha was 80 years into a body that had been starved, weathered, and walked across northern India for decades. And Angulimala could not catch him. The texts describe it plainly. The Buddha was walking at a normal pace, and the man running at full speed could not close the distance. Angulimala ran harder. He sprinted. The Buddha kept walking. Same pace, same posture, not hurrying, not slowing, just walking. He pushed until his chest burned, and his legs failed, and sweat ran into his eyes. The texts describe it plainly. The Buddha was walking at a normal pace, and the man running at full speed could not close the distance. Angulimala finally screamed, "Stop, recluse, stop." The Buddha turned, and he said, "I have stopped, Angulimala. You stop too." 7 words. And in those 7 words is the entire diagnosis of why you feel like time is running out. The Pali word the Buddha used across dozens of suttas for what drives this running is bhavatana. English translations say craving for existence. That translation misses the point. Bhava does not mean to exist. It means to become. Bhavatana is not the desire to be alive. It is the desire to be someone you are not yet, the next promotion, the next milestone, the version of you that will finally have enough, be enough, arrive. You are not running out of time. You are running after time, chasing a future self that does not exist, and every year you spend chasing. It is a year your brain does not bother recording, because you were not there for it. You were ahead of it, leaning into a tomorrow that had not come. That is what the Buddha saw when he looked at Angulimala. Not a murderer, a man who could not stop running, and the cure was not to run slower. It was to stop. It was to stop. If you are watching this and something just clicked, if you felt that pull of recognition, consider subscribing. This channel takes one teaching at a time and strips away everything between you and what the Buddha actually said. No jargon, no religion required. Just the original words and what they mean for your life right now. In a moment, you will hear the Buddha's exact prescription for this. A single Pali word that has no English equivalent. It is not be present. It is far more specific than that. And then you will hear what happened to the man who spent 25 years beside the Buddha, memorized every word he ever spoke, and still could not stop the clock when it mattered most. The Buddha did not say, "Be present." That phrase belongs to Instagram. What he said was far more precise, and he said it in a sutta that most people skip. The Bhattacharya Sutta, number 131 in the Majjhima Nikaya. The title is usually translated as Discourse on the Ideal Solitude. But the Pali word Bhattacharya does not mean ideal solitude. Break it apart. Bhada, excellent. Ika, one. Rata, night. One excellent night. That is the unit the Buddha prescribed. Not a lifetime of mindfulness. Not a decade of meditation retreats. One night, lived fully, without chasing tomorrow, without replaying yesterday. Here is what he said. You should not chase after the past or place expectations on the future. What is past is left behind. The future has not yet arrived. Instead, with insight, let one see each presently arisen state. Notice what he did not say. He did not say, time is an illusion. He did not say, stop planning, stop planning. He did not say, the future does not matter. He said, stop placing expectations on it. Stop living there before it arrives. Because every hour you spend leaning into a future that has not come is an hour your brain files under nothing happened. And here is where the science catches up. Mark Wittmann, a psychologist at the Institute for Frontier Areas of Psychology and Mental Health in Germany, has spent his career studying exactly this. His finding: when you are fully attentive to novel experience, subjective time expands. When you are on autopilot, anticipating what comes next instead of registering what is here, time compresses. The prescription is the same one the Buddha gave 25 centuries earlier. Novelty requires presence. Presence requires that you stop running. Presence requires that you stop running. Bhavatanha is the treadmill. Bodhicharata is stepping off it. Not forever. The Buddha was not naive. He knew you would get back on. He knew you would start chasing again. He knew you would start chasing again. But he also knew that one night, one single night where you are not trying to become someone else, is enough to feel time return to its actual speed. You do not need more time. You need to stop leaving the time you have. That was his prescription. One excellent night. And almost everyone who heard it understood. Almost everyone. But there was one man who heard every prescription the Buddha ever gave, memorized every word for 25 years. And when the moment came, he could not stop running. His name was Ananda. He had been the Buddha's personal attendant for 25 years. He carried his bowl. He arranged his meetings. He slept with arm's reach so he could bring water in the night. And he had a gift that no one else in the Sangha possessed. He could hear a teaching once and remember it, word for word, forever. Most of what we call the Pali canon exists because Ananda remembered it. He was not enlightened. He knew this. The other senior monks had crossed over. Sariputta, the wisest, had already died. Moggallana, murdered by rival ascetics. Mahakassapa, austere and focused, was ready. But Ananda, the one who remembered everything, had not let go of the one thing the teachings required him to release. He loved the Buddha, not as a concept, as a person, the man who had answered every question, who had never once turned him away, who called him friend. The Buddha was 80. They were in Vaisali, and he made an announcement that landed like a stone in still water. In 3 months, he said, I will attain final nibbana. An announcement that landed like a stone in still water. Ananda did not stay in the room. He walked out. He found a building. The texts say a vihara, a dwelling, and he went behind it where no one could see him. And he wept. He pressed his back against the wall and said, I am still in training. I have not yet reached the goal, and my teacher is about to pass away. My teacher, who is so compassionate to me. The Buddha noticed his absence. He sent a monk to find him. When Ananda came back, his face told the story before his words did, and the Buddha did not comfort him the way you might expect. He did not say you have more time. He did not say, do not be sad. He said, Ananda, have I not taught from the very beginning that the nature of all things near and dear to us is that we must be divided and separated and severed from them? This is not cruelty. The Buddha is saying, you are not losing me. You are discovering what was always true. I was never permanent. Either I, neither are you. Neither's the time you think you are running out of. Ananda had spent 25 years beside the man who taught impermanence. And he still believed, somewhere in the deepest architecture of his heart, that if he just held on tightly enough, time would not take what he loved. That is bhava tanha at its most invisible, not chasing a promotion, not scrolling through a phone, just the quiet, desperate belief that the next moment should be the same as this one, that if you grip hard enough, the clock will stop. William James wrote in 1890 that the foreshortening of years as we grow older is due in great part to the monotony of memory's content. The Buddha would have agreed, but he would have gone one layer deeper. The monotony is not an accident. It is a symptom. You repeat the same year because you are not living this year. You are living next year. You are gripping last year. And the year you are actually standing in passes without being recorded. Ananda had been running beside the Buddha for 25 years, and in that moment behind the building, he finally understood. The Buddha was not moving. He had never been moving. He had been still the entire time. The Pali word for what Ananda felt in that moment is samvega. English has no translation. It is not fear. It is not grief. It is the shock, the full-body alarm of realizing that time was never yours to keep. And the texts say that samvega, that shock, is not a problem to be solved. It is the beginning. It is the first thing that has to happen before you stop running. So here is what the Buddha actually said about time, stripped of the incense and the mythology and the 2,000 years of commentary. First, time is not speeding up. You are. Bhava tanha, the craving to become, keeps you leaning into a future that has not arrived. And every year you spend, there is a year that disappears the moment it ends, because you were never in it. Second, the cure is not a philosophy. It is a unit. Bhadakarata, one excellent night. Not a lifetime of presence. Not a vow to be mindful forever. One night where you are not rehearsing tomorrow or replaying yesterday. One night where you let the time you have be the time you are in. That is enough to feel the clock change speed. Third, you are not running out of time. You never were. You were running toward a version of yourself that was always one step ahead, one promotion ahead, 1 year ahead. And you can stop. Not someday. Not when you retire. Not when you finally have enough. Tonight, the Buddha told a murderer with 999 fingers around his neck, I have stopped. You stop too. He told his closest student, weeping behind a building, the nature of all things near and dear is that they separate from us. He told an assembly of monks who wanted a system, a program, a 10-step path to peace. Live one night well. The same teaching. 3 different people. 3 different centuries of pain. One diagnosis. You are not short on time. You are short on here. So let me ask you this. What is the one thing you keep telling yourself you will do when you have time? And what would change if you did it tonight? Tell me in the comments. I read them. And if this changed how you think about the clock on your wall, subscribe. There is more coming, and none of it requires you to believe anything. Just to look. The Buddha did not say hurry. He did not say slow down. He said, I have stopped. You stop too.